everybody, what is up? It is Ashy. We are back for another art video. As you can see, this is an art video that I just got bored one night and I randomly decided to hit the record button. So my inspiration for this was on my other monitor. I was listening to As the World Falls Down, if you've ever seen the movie The Labyrinth. I was listening to that and it inspired me to do something unique that fit that theme. So, one of the very first things I did was I wanted this to have squares in it. So, as you can see over in the top left, I was messing around with formulas, and you're going to be seeing a lot of me messing around with formulas in this video. To get to where you want to go, sometimes you have to mess around with a bunch of numbers. And one of the really cool things about this program, which is Mandelbulb 3D, is that there are 6 specific tabs you can have formulas in. And I think for this particular project, I had formulas in tab 1, 3, and 5, which made the piece turn out, at the end you'll see how the piece turns out. But as I was going along, you could see how some of the squares turn into circular squares. Some looks like squares with rounded corners. I was liking where the piece was going. But I said to myself, I needed to figure out a way to get this to look even cooler. And then I got where it looked like you were looking down. So I wanted to adjust where the square shapes were. Does it look better looking diagonal? Does it look better, looking straight ahead? So I started playing around with the orientation as well. And then one of the things I said to myself is, yeah, you need to adjust the size of this so you could see it better, so you could see if it makes sense. Because that's one of the other things is when I do my pieces, I want them to make sense. So after I made this piece a little larger, I started playing around with the formula again. I wanted it to look like you were staring into something, whether that be a container, a room, a lake. I was trying to get it to look like you were staring directly into something. And I didn't like where that was. The cool thing is there is an undo button as well. So if you don't like something on Mandelbulb 3D, you can undo it. But this is the part where I tinkered around with the formula a little bit. I did kind of like what I saw there, and then I went back and messed with the orientation again. Again, my inspiration was the movie The Labyrinth, how nothing is as it seems in that movie. David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly did a really, really awesome job in that movie. And I was trying to get it to look like you're staring at one thing, but then it's something completely different. So in playing with the orientation, one of the things that I love to do is if you look in the small little box, you see all that noise, all those pixels on the right hand side of the little box. I try to minimize that as much as possible. I don't like my art to look, I want to say, cluttered in a sense when I'm trying to project feeling or emotion, or when I'm trying to have a specific idea. So what ends up rendering is something that I sat for a minute and said, okay, this is done. And then I changed my mind and said, no, this isn't done. let's see where we can go. And I think I actually opened tab 4 as well and attempted to put some formulas in there to make it look more interesting. But things started to not turn out right for where my vision was going. I wanted to keep the square features. And as you can see here, I click undo immediately. I didn't like that. The look on my face during this recording was like, wait, what was that? So I go back and I try to add another formula. I try to adjust different numbers. Here, actually, I didn't add another formula. Here's where you could go to actually adjust the different like strength of iteration count, strength of the Julia factor and fractals. Didn't like what I saw in any of that, just closed it out, didn't even bother rendering. Went back, started playing with numbers. The best part about fractals is playing with numbers. I love playing with numbers. I love seeing what I can come up with. So here you see me adjusting different numbers, different, I want to say tilt or not tilt, excuse me. The way the actual squares looked, are there too many? Are there not enough? Fractals depend on whatever you're wanting to convey, in my opinion, but that's all art. And then as I was, I decided to zoom out all the way to see what it looked like. Didn't like that. You're gonna hear me say that a lot. I didn't like the way X, Y, and Z looked for what I was conveying. So rendered out this, and then I said to myself, why do I want it to look all boxy? So I go and I change the thing up entirely. Shook my head at that and hit the undo button, I think twice. Once or twice, if I remember correctly, to get it to the way it was before I added things. And you saw me go around that greenish part and the circular part. I'm like, I want to see if it would look better like a circle. I was wrong. I was so wrong, as a matter of fact. So I completely decided, nope, that's not the way things are going. And then I tried one more thing. And I'm like, yes, this is it. This is the way this goes. Period. So now I started playing around in the navigator. And very first thing I had to do was zoom it out as far as it could go. I wanted to see what it looked like. Do I have the squares and do I have different shapes? And on the navigator, if you hit the parameter button, if you do something you don't like and you mess up, you can hit the parameter button and it takes you back to the very first starting point, which is what I used a little bit to get it to the up and down, like north to south look that you see here. I did not like the way it looked so pixelated towards the front. So now this is the part where I'm trying to clean up the pixels. And what I mean by that is how it looked all fuzzy at the very beginning. And then as I adjust this further, you're going to see it have a more smooth edge kind of look. That is the way I kept messing with numbers. That's why I messed with so many numbers, if in all honesty, because I didn't want there to be so much fuzzy noise, especially towards the front. Now, towards the back, I didn't mind it so much. I still wanted there to be a bit of a look to it, a fuzzy look, but not too fuzzy, to where it started coming through the front. And then as you can see, as the numbers are being played with, so were the shapes. And I loved, absolutely loved the way this looked, but I wanted to adjust it, see if it looked any different. So I kept tinkering with it. And I fell in love with this. This is the look I fell in love with. As you can see, I got back in the navigator, hit parameter, and now it was time to make the room aspect of it come to full fruition. And so I adjusted it, and immediately I was like, yes, this is the piece. This is the way it looks. I love it. And as you can see here, it actually looks like you're staring into a room that gets darker as you go back. So now towards the end here, you're going to see me play with some color. One of the really interesting things I love to do with fractal art is play around with color. Adjust the colors, see how things look overall, and see how it fits the final piece. It took a little bit of adjusting, I will say that, to get the shadows to look right with the highlights. Yeah, it still looked a little bit fuzzy in the light, but as you darken it, it didn't. So I'm like, okay, how are we going to get this to look mysterious? And so I kept playing with the ambient light of it. One of the really cool things is you could play around with ambient light and dynamic fog in Mandelbulb 3D. That is something that I had, and I still have so much fun with. You can see how much fun I'm having with here. And you can see as I'm adjusting this, I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave this part alone. Let's adjust the fog part, see if it brings out any of the background detail. And yeah, this is the final piece. This is As the World. Thank you so much for watching. I am so humbled you all are watching. And until next time, as always, bye everybody. I try to remember.